Have you ever bumped into someone you're sure you've met before, but for the life of you, you just can't remember their name? You smile, nod, maybe even chat for a bit, all while frantically trying to place them. Was it from church, the neighborhood, or that bridge club you tried a while back? And then it happens. They say your name with a warm smile, and all you can do is pretend everything's fine while your mind draws a blank. If that scenario feels all too familiar, you're definitely not alone. In fact, one of the most common concerns among people over 60 is forgetfulness, especially when it comes to names and faces. But here's the good news. This doesn't mean your memory is failing, and it's certainly not something you have to just accept as part of getting older. The truth is, with just a few simple changes in how you pay attention, how you spend your time, and how you use your brain, you can significantly improve your memory, not just for names and faces, but for all the little things that make everyday life richer. Today, I want to have a conversation with you, not lecture you, about how we can take back some control when it comes to memory. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 6 easy, science-backed memory strategies that are especially effective after the age of 60. And don't worry, these aren't gimmicky brain games or complicated techniques that feel like a chore. These are natural, everyday habits that really work. And we'll start with something simple but often overlooked: attention. Most of the time when we forget someone's name, it's not because our memory failed. It's because we didn't really remember it in the first place. Think about it. When we meet someone new, we're often distracted by what we're going to say, whether we're shaking their hand correctly or just feeling a little awkward. Their name goes in one ear and out the other. So here's a small but powerful trick. When someone tells you their name, say it out loud right away. For example, "Nice to meet you, Barbara." It might feel a bit formal at first, but saying the name helps lock it into your short-term memory, making it far more likely to stick. Even better, link their name to something visual. Let's say her name is Barbara and she's wearing bright blue earrings. You could think, "Big Blue Barbara." Sounds a little silly, right? But your brain loves images. It remembers pictures better than words. So if you connect a name to a visual detail, like Barbara with the earrings, Paul with the ponytail, or Linda who laughs like a wind chime, you give your brain something solid to hang on to. Here's another trick. Turn names into short, imaginative stories. Say you meet someone named George who used to be a firefighter. You might picture him wearing a fireman's helmet, using a hose to put out candles on a birthday cake. The sillier and more playful the image, the better your brain will remember it. You're not aiming for realism, you're aiming for something that sticks. Now let's talk about faces. Remembering names is just half the challenge. Faces can be even harder, especially when you're meeting several people in a row, like at a family reunion or community event. The key is to slow down and actually look. Most of us glance and move on too fast. But if you take an extra second to notice someone's eyes, their smile, the shape of their nose, or how they wear their glasses, and then mentally say something like, "This is Sandra, soft eyes, short hair, glasses low on her nose," you're making what's called a mental map. Do this often enough, and you'll be surprised at how much easier it is to recognize people, even weeks later. Let me share a quick story. My friend Earl, he's 74, used to say, "I just can't remember people like I used to." But when I suggested he try repeating names out loud and creating those mental pictures, he gave it a shot. The next time we were at church, he greeted 6 people by name, people he used to struggle to remember. His confidence shot up. Sometimes it's not just about memory, it's about believing that you can remember. Belief is powerful. When we tell ourselves, "Oh, I'm just getting old, I can't remember anything anymore," our brain listens and stops trying so hard. But when we remind ourselves that memory is like a muscle, one that can still grow stronger with use, everything changes. And speaking of muscles, here's a memory booster that might surprise you. Movement. Yep, something as simple as walking can help improve memory. You don't need to run a marathon. Just a 20-minute walk outside each day, especially in nature, can get your blood flowing, lower stress, and even help your brain grow new cells. Yes, even after 60, your brain is still capable of growing. So the next time you're feeling foggy, try taking a short walk. You might be amazed at how much clearer your mind feels afterward. We're only getting started, but already you can see. Improving your memory doesn't have to be frustrating or complicated. In fact, it can be fun, even playful. So the next time you meet someone new, try saying their name right away. Create a silly picture in your head. Notice a unique detail about their face. And when you see them again, trust that your brain stored that information. You just need to give it a little cue to bring it back. One of the most comforting things to remember is this. Your brain, just like your body, thrives on a little challenge. And when it comes to memory, it loves practice, variety, and meaningful connection. So let's build on what we've already learned, because remembering names and faces becomes much easier when you use your senses and surroundings in creative, intentional ways. Have you ever walked into a room, stopped, and thought, wait, what did I come in here for? We've all been there. That moment of confusion doesn't mean something is wrong. It usually just means your brain is multitasking. Maybe it's thinking about your to-do list, your sore knee, or whether you left the stove on. When your mind is juggling too many things, it can't fully absorb the new name or face in front of you. That's where a little memory trick called anchoring can help. Anchoring is when you connect something new, like a person's name, to something familiar. Let's say you meet a man named Frank at your friend Mary's house. You can anchor his name to the place where you met him. In your mind, picture Frank lounging on Mary's couch, sipping tea or scratching her cat behind the ears. The more vivid and playful the image, the better. So later, when you think, what was that guy's name from Mary's house? Your brain has something to go back to. It's like leaving breadcrumbs for your memory to follow. Another easy but powerful habit: talk about people after you meet them. Not in a gossipy way, just a quick conversation later in the day. Remember Barbara with the blue earrings? She said her granddaughter just got married. When you say something out loud, you're reinforcing it. Your brain treats it like, oh, this is important. And if you can recall one personal detail, where they're from, what they do, or what they shared with you, you've just doubled the odds of remembering them next time. Here's something a little unexpected. Write it down. Writing isn't just for grocery lists or reminders, it's also a memory superpower. After meeting someone, jot down their name and one thing about them. Frank, met at Mary's, retired pilot. You don't need to carry a notebook around, just keep a small pad by your keys or type a quick note in your phone. Even if you never look at it again, the act of writing helps your brain absorb and store the memory more deeply. Want another trick that really sticks? Tie faces to emotions. Emotions are powerful memory triggers. If you meet someone who makes you laugh or reminds you of someone you love, take note. She had such a peaceful presence. Or, he reminded me of my cousin Tom. Your brain is wired to remember how people made you feel even more than what they said. That emotional layer becomes a strong anchor, one that facts alone can't always provide. Feeling adventurous? Next time you meet someone, try making a personal connection to their name. Oh, Grace, that was my grandmother's name. I've always loved it. Or Alan, like Alan Alda, he was one of my favorite actors. When you connect a name to a memory, even in a light-hearted way, your brain treats it as something meaningful, not just random. And meaningful things are more likely to stick. And here's a big one. Don't be afraid to ask again. Really, there's no shame in saying, I'm so sorry, could you remind me of your name? I remember your face perfectly. People usually appreciate your honesty, and it gives you another shot to lock it in. Think of it as a redo, not a failure. You'd be surprised how often that second time does the trick. Now, I know how frustrating it can feel when a name is right there on the tip of your tongue, but just won't come. One trick that might help: stop trying so hard. Take a breath. That's all. Let your mind relax. Sometimes, the moment you stop chasing the memory, it comes back on its own. Just like a song lyric you couldn't remember until you stopped thinking about it. That's because stress actually makes memory harder, while relaxation opens up the brain. Let's also talk about the power of routine. When these memory tools, repeating names out loud, creating vivid images, writing them down, making emotional connections become part of your daily habits, they stop feeling like effort and start becoming automatic. You'll begin remembering more, feeling less stress, and even enjoying your conversations more. Because here's the truth, remembering someone's name, especially when they're not expecting it, can be a beautiful gift. You see their eyes light up, it tells them, I see you, you matter to me. That moment of recognition builds trust, warmth, and connection, not just for them, but for you too. So if names and faces have felt slippery lately, please don't be discouraged. It's not a flaw. It's just your brain asking for a little more presence, a little more attention, and maybe a bit more play. Because memory, like life, isn't about being perfect. It's about being engaged, staying curious, and choosing to grow at any age. So far, we've explored some wonderfully simple and powerful ways to connect names with faces. And more importantly, how to make those connections stick. But we're not done yet. There are still a few more memory tools that can truly transform how you move through conversations, social gatherings, and even those quick, casual chats with a neighbor or a friendly face in the grocery store. Have you ever watched a movie and a few weeks later tried to describe it to someone, only to realize you couldn't remember half the characters' names? But then someone brings up one funny or touching scene and suddenly it all comes rushing back. That's the power of storytelling. And believe it or not, you can tap into that exact same power to improve your memory, especially when it comes to remembering people. Let's say you meet a woman named Diane who tells you a hilarious story about chasing a squirrel out of her kitchen with a broom. Sure, you could just try to memorize, her name is Diane. But chances are, your brain will hold on to it much better if you think, Diane is the squirrel lady. That silly, vivid image makes her name far more memorable. It's not about poking fun. It's about giving your brain a colorful hook to hold on to. Your brain loves stories. So if you can turn a name into a little character in a mini mental tale, you'll find it much easier to recall later. Here's something else that might surprise you. Movement helps memory. Yes, really. Even something as simple as taking a walk. When you go for a short stroll and think about the people you've recently met, it helps reinforce those memories. Researchers have found that movement increases blood flow to the brain and supports healthy thinking. But beyond the science, it just feels good. Imagine walking through your neighborhood, and as you pass each house, you picture someone you recently met. You see their face, recall their name, maybe remember what they said. That peaceful walking review becomes a ritual, one that grounds you, energizes you, and strengthens your memory at the same time. Now let's talk about something that's just as important as any technique or trick: your attitude. Yes, your mindset makes a huge difference. If you keep telling yourself things like, I've never been good at names, or my memory isn't what it used to be, your brain starts to believe that. But if you change that internal script to something more kind and encouraging, like I'm learning new ways to remember, or I get better with practice, you're giving your brain room to grow. Because that's what this is really about, not perfection, but progress. Your brain may not always snap names into place on the first try, and that's okay. Growth isn't always fast or obvious. Sometimes it shows up in small, meaningful moments, like the first time you recall someone's name without a prompt, or when someone smiles and says, "You remembered that? I'm impressed." Those moments matter. They're worth noticing. They're worth celebrating. And if I could leave you with just one final reminder, it would be this: you are not alone. So many people, millions of us, find names and faces harder to keep track of as we get older. It's not a sign of failure. It doesn't mean you're slipping. It's just your brain asking for a little more attention, a little more intention, and a bit more creativity. And with all the tools you've been practicing, anchoring, storytelling, emotional connection, repetition, movement, you're already better equipped than most to keep your memory strong. There's a special kind of joy that comes from seeing someone across a room, smiling and calling them by name. It makes them feel seen. It makes you feel confident, sharp, and connected. It turns an ordinary moment into something meaningful. And really, when you think about it, aren't those little moments of connection what life is all about? So be proud of yourself. Every time you pause to use a memory technique, every time you picture a face, every time you reach for a name instead of brushing it off, that's progress. That's you investing in your mind, your relationships, and your independence. And if this video has helped you in any way, if it made you feel more confident, more hopeful, or simply a little less alone, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts or even your own favorite memory tips in the comments. Maybe there's a technique that's worked wonders for you, or a story about a time you surprised someone by remembering their name. Let's support one another, learn from one another, and keep this conversation going. If you found this video helpful, please take a second to like it. It helps more people like you find it. And if you'd like more encouraging, practical content made with you in mind, subscribe to the channel. We're here for those who know that growing older doesn't mean growing out of potential. It just means adding more chapters to your story. So here's to you, to your memory, your spirit, your ability to grow and adapt at any age. The brain is a beautiful, resilient part of who you are. And with a little practice, a little patience, and the right tools, you can make it work for you in ways you may never have imagined. You've got this. And I'm cheering you on every step of the way.